Okay. All right, I think I'm going live. Hi, this is Chrissy, Real World Witness here, and I am here with my good friend Dustin Gold from the Gold Standard. Hi, Dustin. How are you?
Hello, Chrissy. How
Well, we had a little bit of a
that, that was it was weird. There was like a delay there for a second, but I think it's normal. How are you doing today, Chrissy?
I'm doing okay. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty, so I'm not even sure if it's actually live or not, but whatever, we'll go with it.
No,
So,
it's definitely live. I just pulled it up on YouTube to see if it was
oh, good.
live, and it's live. Yeah.
Okay, so it is. All right, good. Well, that's good to know. Okay, so Dustin and I we met a few years back. You want to kind of just give a brief overview of how we know each other and introduce yourself?
Yeah, it was years ago. You were doing, I think, the Real World Witness show, the
Yeah.
original version with Douglas Ducote. And at the time, I was doing a Donald Trump impression. And I would dress up as Trump. I went to 13 Trump rallies. I did a couple of the inaugural deplorables. It was a comedic version of Trump. And so you reached
Yeah.
out to me. Back then, everyone that was, MAGA was all on Twitter. There was all these Twitter DM rooms going on. And
Right.
so that's why you reached out to me. And I came on your podcast. And then a few months later, you introduced me to Doug, and Doug was looking to try to grow his show. And so we got involved together working on Doug's project, had done a mini border documentary. We covered Politicon, which was a left-leaning political conference in Nashville. We covered the Virginia gun rally. And we did a lot of really cool stuff over the course of a year. And then COVID Land, the high school theater production, came along and basically disrupted everything. And
Right.
ever since then, we've all been trying to get back on track. So
Yeah.
that's how
And
we
it's
know
been
each
a
other.
long road. It's been a long road, that's for sure. I know, and I mean, you're hilarious. I think you're the best Trump impersonator. Anyway, it was hilarious. You should have seen it when we went to the Politico. That was so hilarious. People were like, because you're just really good, right? Like right on the spot. You know, you're coming up with stuff. And there were two guys. It was him and one other guy. And I saw the other guy, and the other guy was like, you know, a deadpan, ridiculous compared to what how you do yours. So
Yeah.
I might,
I
I might. There are a lot of. I will tell you, there's a lot of Trump fans on this. I guess in my audience.
in your
So
community, yeah. No, I would say it was that conference was funny because what happened was I forgot the guy's name. He was some left-leaning pundit. And he
yeah,
had reached out to me because it was taking place in Nashville and I lived in Nashville. So he was obviously trying to get me to come for free. So they
yeah,
wanted me to sit on a panel with like 5 other pundits and podcasters and do Trump. And I said, oh, okay, well, if you can get us free tickets and access to
yeah.
the VIP room and all this other stuff. And that's because I figured, what the hell, let's go there and cover it for Doug's show. And it turned
Right.
out to be great. But when I was walking around doing Trump, I don't know if you remember, it was Bill Weld. He was the former governor of
Yes.
Massachusetts. And he was like, I think he was Republican, but at the time he would be known as like a never Trumper.
Yeah.
And I never saw Bill Weld in person. So I'm there as Trump. And when I'm dressed up as Trump, I'm 6'3". And then I also wear these lift shoes because I like to play Trump really tall and tower over people. And then I had the hair. So I'm standing at like 6'6". And Bill Weld was pretty tall. But I could tell he's like a full-blown alcoholic. His face was bright
Yeah.
red. He looked like a stereotypical Irishman. And so I started messing
Right.
with him. And then he was getting a little upset with it. So I kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And I was like, there was some press there interested in what I was doing. I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, Bill Weld, total alcoholic. How many shots did you have before you came here, Bill Weld? And then when I finally got back in the green room, after I broke the guy's balls for like
Yeah.
10 minutes out in the public, Doug and I went back there. It was like a staging area for the talent there. And Bill Weld is in there and he's like shaking his head like, oh no. And I started messing with him in there. And then backstage, I don't know if people remember, what's that lady's name? It's not Rachel Maddow, but she looks kind of like Rachel Maddow. She's like a left-leaning pundit lesbian on MSNBC or something. Anyway, she's got a short haircut like Rachel Maddow.
Yeah.
And she was wearing one of those, like a flannel shirt, long sleeve flannel shirt, and one of those kind of bubble vest jacket, like a bubble vest, and jeans. So I go, oh my God, I couldn't remember her name. So I said, oh my God, I can't believe it's you, one of my favorite people on the planet. And she turns and she's laughing, thinking like, I must be like a liberal. And I'm dressed as, and I'm going to say something nice. I go, get over here. Let's take a picture. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Michael J. Fox from Back to the Future. Unbelievable. And everyone starts like bursting out laughing. And I said, it's amazing, Michael. What drugs are you on? You're not shaking right now. It's fantastic. So great. And so then we go, I don't know if you remember, I go out on that panel.
Yeah.
And one of the guys, he was some left-leaning podcaster. He was this chubby, like black guy, and he had sort of Don King hair that stuck straight up in the hair, was black and white. And backstage, I was thinking, I need some jokes for this guy. Like, I got to do something on this panel. Like, he's going to be the one I constantly attack. So I remember I had these jokes ready to go. I mean, folks, he was round. I mean, he was big, like Michael Moore. A black guy with this stick up hair. So in the first joke, I forgot what happened. And I said, something about this is Eddie Murphy's stunt double from The Nutty Professor. And then I said something about it was Don King after he eats McDonald's every day for an entire year. And then something about, I said, they were talking about race or something like nonsensical. And then it got to me, and he went on this diatribe about racism. And I said, that's really rich coming from blackface Albert Einstein. Okay.
So, I'm sure that he was in complete shock that you actually said that. Oh my God.
After the thing, he grabbed me. He goes, I can't believe, why did you pick on me so much? I said, come on, man, you were an easy target.
And the thing is like the one thing that I want to get out there is that, it's all a big game. It's so funny because when we went to that political thing, I was like thinking it was going to be more conservative. It's basically a liberal convention. I mean, it really is. And it was so funny because to like actually see how these people operate. I'll never forget James Comey, right? I covered that, right? I had to go and video it. Oh my God. I mean, literally this guy was so evil. Like I couldn't, how when you hear evil or whatever, you just have to get out of there. You cannot handle it at all. But anyway, that's how it was with me. And I mean, these people are laughing at his jokes. It was like, you know what it was? It was like Day of the Dead. There are a bunch of zombies that are watching this character up there talking about this and that and everything. And I was just like, oh, and he's like, well, I don't know. We did our best talking about Vicegate and all that crap. And I was just like, I can't believe these people. I had to leave. I literally left my post because I couldn't stand it. Like, hear him talk. And these people were just scooping it up. They were eating it up. And I was like, this must be what real evil is like, because these people are just oblivious to it. And I can't handle it. I was the only one that couldn't stand it. I had to leave. Anyway, it was just
that was at the point in time, to put it into context, that was back in like 2018, I think, or 2019. So that was at the point in time there was a lot of, half the country thought that someone like Comey was going to end up getting arrested. But this was after he left his position as FBI director, and then he was the star of this panel discussion. But again, at that conference, this was moving into the 2020 election. So you had at that time, like Andrew Yang was running. And so you had all these kids there from the Yang gang. Doug did a really good interview with like 4 of them. And they were all supporting universal basic income and all of this nonsense. I mean, that's basically what the conference was a lot of younger kids who can self-identified as being on the left. And then they're listening to all these like NPR, left-leaning policy wonk type people. I mean, there's a lot of weirdos there.
Yeah. And so anyway, it was really eye-opening. And then you and Doug, you guys were on the green room, and it's just so funny because everybody's like, oh, they're all friends, right? But then on stage or in the news, they're all like going after each other.
Yeah, like at the time, Reince Priebus, who was the former head of the Republican Party who went to work for Trump as the chief of staff, and then you had what's the Brazil, Donna Brazil. She was former head of the Democrat Party, and then she left to work for, I think, under a CNN contract. And then the next thing you know, like, I'm showing Doug, the two of them are backstage, and Ryan's just like, "Oh, I can't wait till our families go on vacation at the lake house next week together." They're like hugging each other, and I had told Doug, I said, "You're going to see, man, everything that we're fighting on the Douglas Ducote show, at the end of the day, like, we're the fools, because these guys are all buddies. They're all friends. They're just WWE wrestlers." Yeah. And so I just explained it on my show the other day, because I always talk about that. I said it's even worse than them being an actors, because there's certain people that are cemented into a character. Like in wrestling, you have Hulk Hogan. He's always Hulk Hogan. You have Macho Man Randy Savage. He's always Macho Man. In real life, you have like Nancy Pelosi. She's always Nancy Pelosi. Or Mitch McConnell's always Mitch McConnell. But in wrestling, you'll have a big actor, right? And like on Wednesday night's match, he might be Don the dentist. And then on Thursday night's match, he's like JoJo the plumber man. And then on Friday, he's another character. He's like the crazy pizza chef. Well, in real life, you have a lot of these characters too. In politics, also in the influencer world on social media, you have characters that literally play different characters all the time. Like they change. Like one day they're a conservative, and the next day they have like a whole new YouTube channel and there's some like Nazi, and then on Wednesday they're like a Jewish liberal. You're like, what the hell is this? They bounce around and play different characters. Is it freezing up for you over there?
Yeah, it is. It's freezing up a little bit on my end. It's freezing up on your end too?
Yeah, I just saw a jump for a second, so I wasn't sure what was going on.
Yeah, it's freezing up on my end here and there. I don't know. I mean, well, you know, I'm in the boondocks, so there you go. But anyway, so I wanted to discuss. So we're going to talk about a bunch of different things. There's a lot of stuff going on, and obviously, the Davos meeting, the annual meeting in Davos of the elite, the rich, those that are running the world, happened over this last weekend. And I do want to show, I'm going to show this video, because actually these guys are my heroes. Actually, I mean, I would have loved to have approached it. So this guy, this is Albert Bourla from the WEF. He's the WEF CEO. And these guys are from Rebel News, and they basically got him. Let me see if I can do a present. I want to share my screen. Okay, this is hilarious, because I was dying laughing. I was like, what? Can you... Okay, share my screen. Yes, I'm sharing my screen, I think. Can you see my, let me see, share. Can you see my thing? Can you see it?
No, I see the two of us. Can you still hear me talking?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. As long as you can hear me. I don't know what's going on. Something's freezing up over here. I'm trying to get it fixed. Yeah, I can see you wiggling your nose and stuff and moving around.
You can see me wiggling my nose. Okay, let's see. Yeah. I don't have two computers, so it's not going to happen. Let's see. I should be able to share the system audio. Share. I was able to manage this the last time I did something. Oh, crap. I wanted to show this because it's really funny. Hold on a minute. I don't know why it's not working. This computer sucks, man. I just got to say. Well, crap. Anyway, these two guys.
Well, anyway, I know what you're going to show, and you probably don't want my opinion. Do you actually want my opinion on it?
Yeah, because I mean, they just kept throwing out questions. He was just walking, and he tried to get away from them, and then he got trapped, and then he walked all around. So, what is your assessment of the situation? He basically they were just throwing questions out. Don't you think you you owe the people money? Don't how much money have you taken because of and we have to be careful what we say. He is the CEO of the P word is what it was. The the main jab people. So he was the CEO of that. That's who it was. So go ahead. And he was at the WEF.
My opinion, it's staged WWE wrestling, and Rebel Media is part of the system. So it was nothing more than Oh no, I know so.
It was just about basically getting people to listen or whatever.
Yeah, it's staged to make it look. No one can get that close to those people, so it's staged. It's like it was just orchestrated, like the one with the person going up to Klaus Schwab. Like that's all staged too. Like there's supposed to be 5,000 troops there patrolling everywhere with hardcore security, and then someone can go stick a mic in Klaus Schwab's face. It's like, come on. I mean, Rebel Media. Rebel Media, where for going back to the Trump days, you're supposed to believe they're like on our side. Everyone who cycled through Rebel Media, from Gavin McInnes and the rest of them, are all controlled. The majority of what you watch is just controlled propaganda run by the state. That's all it is. I mean, you know how you know when people aren't controlled? When they have very small followings. That's how. Because in the world we live in today, you can't grow and get huge unless you're controlled. It's just not allowed.
Yeah. It's so sad though, because so many of us out here trying to, they don't want the truth out there, and that's basically it.
Well, then it's more than the truth is we operate inside of what is like it's the technocratic state is what we live in, and it's worldwide, and we live under the culture. It's not necessarily that there's one like individual controlling it. Now you could look behind the curtain and say the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, Illuminati and stuff like that. Sure, they all play like a part in it. But the technocratic system is now this culture. We live in a technological society, and it is a one world system. It's not that it's coming, it's already here. We're living under it. So you're allowed to do certain things inside the system as long as you're not a big threat to the system. And the more that we see every day that goes on, the system is just going to continue to corral more people deeper and deeper into the system. And it's going to create more control, more handcuffs. It's just a giant prison planet that you live inside of. There's no changing it, in my opinion. You're not going to stop it. It has nothing to do with Republican or Democrat or left or right or conservative or liberal in this country. It has nothing to do with political parties. As far as I'm concerned, Congress in this country, the parliament in the UK, they are just illusions. It's WWE wrestling because we live in what's called like a quasi-technocracy, where you have the illusion of representative government or the illusion of parliamentary system. But at the end of the day, the technocracy controls everything. I mean, I just watched a video the other day. I don't know, you might have seen it. It was that British politician. He was wearing a tuxedo, and he started ranting about like wokeness. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that.
What spread far and wide, and people sent it to me, and I said, well, did you watch it all the way to the end? Because you would assume the guy is on your side if you identify as a conservative or on the right, because he's sitting there complaining about wokeness, and he's talking about all these woke kids in England that want to fix climate change, and England only amounts for 2% of the climate change. But what people aren't realizing is he's walking you into the trap of climate change, which there's two parts to pollution. There's pollution that's real, and then there's the climate change hoax. And he keeps walking you down the trap. And at the end, he says, if you really want to fix climate change, it's all about innovation and technology. He's beginning to drive people into the hands of what is the central bank digital currency carbon credit system. So like people think he's on their side. He's not on your side. His job is to walk you right deeper into technology, because the real answer to fighting this system, whether it's in your personal life or if you think you're going to save the planet, is actually reducing the technological footprint, not going further into technology. Technology cannot solve the problems that we've created with technology. And that would be everything from mental illness and alcoholism and drug abuse and just, self-hate, transgenderism, all the gays, everything that we're seeing is a result and a product of the technological system that has basically taken us as humans so far away from the wiring in our DNA to being hunters and gatherers, which we were up until 250 years ago. So the whole system has taken us so far out of that we now have mental illness. We now have all of these problems. And then what's the answer? Rockefeller Medical Industrial Complex comes to the rescue with big pharmaceuticals. Now they smoke pot. Okay, take psychedelics. Hey, put on this brain chip reader that's going to tell you why you're thinking crazy thoughts. So they keep driving everyone further and further into the technological system. And eventually, the reality of this, whether you're looking at it from, biblical end times to whether you're looking at it, if you don't believe in that, you're just wondering what the hell's going on, there's only one logical conclusion to this. It leads towards engineering of humanity out of existence, and those who get to live inside of a digital slave state. I mean, there's no other way this goes if we keep moving forward. I mean, who's going to reform it? How do you reform a technological system? You cannot reform it. You cannot separate the good and the bad of technology, because technology has proven itself now to have one purpose, which is to destroy human freedom and eventually humanity altogether. There's no other way it goes. Technology, that's just what it naturally does. Whether it's people at the top controlling it like it's a monolith, or it's natural organic growth, technology is designed to take humans out of the equation. That's the whole entire point of technology.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's that. And then obviously, AI is a huge thing. And now that it's so funny because, now you see sort of the progression of how they get the influence of the AI. I mean, they've got that creepy ass movie. Did you see the movie? I haven't watched it or anything, but there's this definitely, it's all AI, this AI doll or person or whatever. It's crazy what they're doing. And the AI stuff is, people understand. I think there's a lot of people, especially in the community that I'm in, we believe in there's AI. AI is going to take over, but there's this consensus that there's good AI and bad AI. There isn't, in my opinion, I don't think there's good or bad. I mean, AI, it's artificial intelligence. And what they're doing now is they're trying to get people to sign up to have like their twin, a digital twin now. Because there's a lot of that going on all over the internet. And in these chats and, TikTok and all these, they want you an avatar. There is no accident that Avatar 2 came out, and I've never even seen the first one, but it's not an accident. What they're trying to do is they want us to basically load our Abby up with all of our likes, dislikes, the way we think, the way we, how we would respond from this or that. That's the goal. And ultimately what they want, in my opinion, is they'd like us to just stay home with the VR glasses on, or the augmented reality glasses that they're testing now. I mean, my brother wants to have that. I'm just like, are you kidding me? These kids nowadays, they have the app. Everything is like, they want you to use the Fitbit. They want you to use the Apple Watches. They want you to, anything that can monitor your body, your body, or, what you think, how you think. It's all inclusive. It's all for a purpose. And it's hard for people to kind of wrap their heads around that. We talked before that, Elon Musk, I mean, he went on Joe Rogan and talked about putting the chip. They basically want to open your head up and put this chip in with thousands of wires and meld you. They want a cyborg person. And that's the thing that people don't understand. It's not, we as humanity need to start paying attention to this stuff and stand up, because if we don't, then humanity goes to the wayside. I mean, that's what their goal is with all of this stuff. So what are your thoughts on all of that, Dustin?
Well, I'll just say that, let's just look at let's break this down, because you started off with artificial intelligence. So humans are already taking orders from artificial intelligence, like regular people. You go to the gym and you see someone with a Fitbit on, and the Fitbit is measuring their heart rate, their blood oxygen level. Some of the Fitbits and iWatches actually have ECG readers on them. So you're beaming that information up to the cloud. The cloud, right? What's the cloud? The cloud is a collection of servers. All the servers in the world are basically made up by Amazon Web Services, Microsoft, Google, and Oracle. So the whole internet is really concentrated under those 4 companies that are all front companies of the United States government. So there's no secretive cloud. There's no such thing as decentralized internet, decentralized crypto. It's all run on the same cloud. Now, if this wasn't a worldwide construct, how could our CIA be housing their data, which they do under $10 billion contracts with Amazon Web Services? At the same time, China uses for their intelligence Amazon Web Services. So Amazon's allowed to house multiple countries that are enemies' intelligence data. I mean, so it goes to show you there's no actual enemies. So when you go to the gym and you're using the Fitbit and it's spitting back, we recommend doing this, we recommend doing that, and you do it, you're actually complying with the machine. That's artificial intelligence telling you what to do. Now, at the World Economic Forum 4 days ago on January 19th, they had a discussion, and it was called Brain Transparency. I covered this yesterday on the Dustin Gold Standard, episode 139, called Brain Transparency, the battle for your brain. And so they bring this woman up, and this has not been put out on YouTube yet. I'm talking about the actual video. It was only on the World Economic Forum website. So if you're not trolling their website, you wouldn't have found this, which is why I decided to cover it, because I usually skip things that everyone else is already covering. So she's from Duke University and like one of these futurists, right? So she comes out, she does a whole presentation on all this technology, which is based on EEG technology. They're basically doing brain scans. And so she's showing how in the workforce, in a workplace, they're going to make you wear this headband and headphones, earbuds that are tracking your brain, and it's telling you why you're not being productive, why you're not happy, why you should do this or do that. And it tweaks your brain to tell you to stop looking at the handsome guy over in the corner cubicle. So then she goes through and she goes, well, this is already being done. This is not new. They have minors out in the workforce, like supposed blue collar guys wearing these. They're using it in various industries and it's being rolled out. So today, I decide, you know what, I'm going to do my show. I'm going to do some research on these companies. I find dozens of manufacturers that are making these EEG devices. Some of them look like neoprene scuba helmets with wires hanging all over it. Some are just little earbuds you put in. And now they're working with thousands of companies already, Fortune 500s, of bringing these earbuds into the workplace. I'm talking about unrolling over the next couple of months. So I've asked my audience the question, where do you draw the line? If you're someone, and I don't judge anyone, we were all caught off guard during COVID land, the high school theater production. But if you were someone who, say, were reluctant to, or you didn't necessarily want to get the jab, but then your company said you have to or you're going to lose your job, and then you were put in a position where you weren't going to be able to bring a paycheck home and feed your family, or you had to risk being poisoned or connected up to the cloud or whatever you thought that fax was going to do. Maybe you just thought, hey, this thing isn't tested, it's not safe. But you took the gamble, right? Well, now you see what's happening and you're starting to go, oh my God, it's worse than I actually thought. Well, my question is, where do you draw the line? So when you go to work tomorrow and your boss, your supervisor comes up to you and says, put these headphones in, don't worry, it's going to help make you more productive. We're just tracking your brain waves and uploading them to a cloud. And then AI, what it does is there's a software on your phone. And this is the first phase. It tells you, Chrissy, you seem like you are not productive. We recognize that doing yoga helps you. So do a yoga pose. Like this is literally, they call it the virtual assistant. It's essentially your digital twin. So where is the line drawn? Like, are you going to put these in? What happens if you go get your Social Security check next week and they say you can't have it unless you wear these headphones, or you can't have it unless you put this device on your head? So I ask people now, at a certain point, it's only your own fault. You have to look in the mirror and start to take responsibility for actions at this point, because you were already awoken during the last 3 years. So if you go to your work tomorrow and they try to make you do it, are you going to tell them, screw you, I'm not doing it? Because what I'm trying to get across to my audience is a revolution against this tyrannical system that you live under. You cannot keep complaining you live under a tyrannical system and then keep complying with tyranny. If they pass a law tomorrow and tell you have to shoot yourself in the face, are you going to take out a gun and shoot yourself in the face? Why do you keep complying with tyranny? This is going to be a revolution of ideology. It's an ideological revolution. It's this technocracy, the endless technology versus the concept of wild nature. Like we don't have to even paint a utopia and say we're going to build a planned society just like they're doing. You say, my thing is, you have to start to figure out, if you're serious about this, how you're actually going to exit the system. That's what I call it. Like, how are you going to exit the matrix? It's
from
100%. You don't have to go run out in the woods and live under a burlap sack. You know, I'm not telling people to do that, although I'm contemplating it. But if you can step out of the matrix 40%, 50%, 60%, if you can take the video games away from your kids, because I will tell you this, I just did all the research. How many people know that the VR headsets and the AR headsets in the next couple iterations are going to have the EEG technology in it, where it's actually scanning your brain? It has it inside it. Like, this is in here. Did people know that the iWatches and Fitbits have the ECG technology? No, a lot of people don't know this. And who knows what's really in it? Because I'm not an engineer who's taking apart my watch when I buy it. Go, let me see what's inside the watch. Make sure there's no, oh, look at this special node in here that no one told me about. Like, we're not doing that. So the thing is, it's a conscious decision to start to figure out how to wean yourself, your kids, your grandkids off the technology. Then you can start to figure out, is there a way for you to escape and retreat to, let's say, a more rural area? The beginning of starting to grow your own food and do things like that. I mean, there's so much we can talk about in that world. But then if you actually want to go out, and trust me, if you actually go this path, you're going to be so busy, you're not going to have time to save the world. But if you decide that you want to go out and also try to save the collective, what you need to be able to do is frame these arguments and talk about the dangers of technology, basically taking away freedom to your kids, your grandkids, your loved ones, your friends and folks that you want to try to save. It was like trying to warn people not to get the vax. If you believe that it was going to harm your friend, you tried to explain that to him. So I think that's the place where we really have to get to now. Like at least for me, I'm post-political. I don't even want, seriously, even if somebody sends it to me, I really don't see it unless I accidentally see stuff on my Facebook feed, because I go through there. Sometimes I like to see what regular people, like family and friends, are saying about certain subjects, or on Twitter, only because I have that for my show. If I accidentally see something about politics, that's how it gets into my head. But other than that, ask me 2 years ago, I knew who AOC, all the different players are. I don't even know anymore. I really don't care. I don't look at them as being meaningful in my life. They don't actually make real decisions. They're just puppets that are put there. They're used car salesmen. So all I'm focused on with my show is showing people the technology that's coming so they can avoid it. Right. So they can warn others about it, and then start to hopefully spark people into writing down their goals, figuring out solutions, and figuring out how to exit the system as much as possible if that's what they want to do. You know, some people will decide, you know, I'll tolerate it. But I've had in-depth conversations with friends of mine, and it gets to the point where they say, well, you know, I'm going to stay in it. And I said, well, then stop bitching about it. Like, seriously, I just had a conversation with my father yesterday. He's always complaining about the drag queen story hours and all this other stuff. There's one of them going on today at the town next to him. So it's a big news up in Connecticut. I said, Dad, that's part of the culture. Whether you accept it or don't accept it, or whether a majority accepts it, it doesn't matter. The technological system says it's part of the culture. So either get used to it or take your money and buy 10 acres in the middle of West Virginia, turn off the TV and the internet, and then you'll never see a drag queen story hour for the remaining years that you have in your life. Like, it only exists because you're focused on it. It only exists because you're watching it. You have to either leave or just accept it, because it's not going to change. And even if you went down there and you spent thousands of hours of your life trying to stop the drag queen story hour at this one library, then guess what? While you're doing that, 6 more popped up across the street. So, I mean, that's what actually happens.
Yeah, I know. And I think the main thing, and I think as far as with the community that I'm in, I mean, I think, and I understand. I mean, my whole thing is that their goal, I'm saying the bad people that are running the world and whatever, their whole goal is to destroy destroy the DNA, destroy the God code, because that's what it is. And I think too, a lot of people are turning to alternatives to the big pharma, to medical industry, because they're not, you know, it's all just a big, what's the word I'm trying to find? Anyway, it's just a big game. It's just a big money situation. You know, anything that has money into it. I forgot what my train of thought was. Sorry, everybody. But anyway, so I really think that you're right. What people have to decide is, how much do you want to be in the system? And unfortunately, it's going to become a time where, yeah, you are going to have to make the decision. Okay, well, we're going to cut you off if you get the chip, or if you don't agree to have your conscious. They talk about this consciousness, but the thing is that the cloud, that's what they're trying to create. They're trying to create an alternate, basically your alternate self through this cloud. It's ridiculous. And I don't know how else to explain to, like, for instance, my brother, who, and their kids, they have all these I mean, they have 2 Alexas. That was the other thing I was going to bring up, the Alexa, telling you what to do. Alexa, what time is it? Alexa, this. I mean, like, my entire family has Alexa. And then for Christmas, my brother's wife buys him an Office Alexa. I mean, if you can't figure out how to look up something, I mean, you have the internet at your fingertips on your phone. What do you need to ask Alexa for? It's all categorizing and cataloging your likes, your dislikes. I mean, we all complain about that, right? You go, you're visiting a website, and then all of a sudden you start getting ads for that, or you get text for that, or this and that. That's exactly what they're doing. And they want to do it on a more deeper level, where, your entire existence is going to be categorized. It's going to be cataloged, categorized. They're going to know every step that you make. That song, every breath you take, every move you make, I'll be watching you. That's exactly what the end goal with these people are. So I think that a lot of us have to come to the decision that, all that is just, in my opinion, at this point, I feel like it's all just it's what's the word? It's just static. It's just, it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. All this crap, basically, you have to decide how you want to live, what you can live without, how you are going to respond when these things come up, because it's going to come up eventually. So,
yeah, I put this challenge out to my audience. I'm like, first, before you make a decision that you're going to, like, pack up and move to the woods, first try this. Try not to use any technology outside of work, or of, let's say, you're doing research or educating yourself. So if you're educating yourself in further skills, or you're researching, let's say, how to escape the system, try not to use any technology other than that. Get rid of the smart devices in your house. Get rid of the smart TVs. Only carry your phone on you when you're working. Otherwise, like I've been trying to do it here, right? Like, so when I go upstairs, my studio's in the basement, I try to leave my phone at my desk. So my kid, who's like 10 months old or 10 weeks old now, doesn't see me with the phone in my hand all the time. If you're going to go out hiking, or go to the beach, try to reconnect with nature. I said, leave your phone at home. Now, you're obviously not going to shoot on 35 millimeter film because it's a lot harder to get pictures developed now.
Right.
But bring you could buy a decent used DSLR camera for a couple $100 now. Bring that with you. So you take the pictures, but you're not, you don't have this drive to want to get on your phone. Like every single time, you're sitting in the movies and somebody goes, who's that actor? Oh, hold on a second. That's Bob Benson. He was, I remember, and then before you know it, you're looking up how tall is he? Let me look real quick. Like every stupid thing. So start to consciously remove the technology from your life. That's how you start freeing yourself. The other thing you were just talking about, kind of how the system works, and I've tried to simplify it into basically the 0.01%, the 0.99%, and then the 99%. And the way this technocracy operates is you have the 0.01% at the top. Those are the guys behind the curtain, the ones that are driven by some dark spiritual underbelly. These are the guys that literally make the world move. Yeah, the 0.99%, those are the guys that are all about control and power. These are all the people that you see at the heads of these major international organizations, to some degree, some of the politicians. And then you have the lower 99%. Those are the people that are driven by money, all the way down to us that get a paycheck. We are worker bees in the system, actually helping them build the technocracy all around us, and we're driven by money. I do my podcast because I got to pay bills. People go to work and they program on the computer because they got to get paid. Cops run around enforcing all kinds of unconstitutional mandates because they get a paycheck. So we are the worker bees that get stuck operating in the system. We're driven by money. The guys at the top are the guys in the middle are the power and control, and the guys above them are like some dark spirituality. So the ones that are about control and power, they don't need the money because they have access to the printing press, whether that's paper money or it's minted coins or it's digital tokens mined in cyberspace. If they control the printing press, right, the big banker guys I'm talking about, they walk into the room and they go, fill me up 5 bags with money. Then they walk out and they go, I'm the richest guy on earth. And we go, yo, we'll take your money. And that makes them the richest guy on earth. It's as simple as that. I mean, that's pretty much the structure of what we're looking at. And it doesn't matter if you're operating under fake capitalism, under socialism, under communism. At this point, it's all the same thing, because what overrides all of that is technocracy. And every country at this point is operating under technocracy. The countries that thought that they weren't, like the supposed poverty-stricken indigenous folks, of which I wish I was one of them, what happens with those countries? They send the International Monetary Fund in there after we destabilize them with a fake war or we collapse their economy, and then they come in and they wave around a check and they say, we're going to build up your infrastructure. And then what they end up doing is they drive them into debt, they take them over, and then they industrialize those countries. Then they tell them they're polluters, and the answer to that is more technology. I mean, this is basically the system that we're operating under right now. You're supposed to believe Putin and Zelensky are enemies. At the same time, Putin's calling for an international central bank digital currency, while Zelensky launches Ukraine's central bank digital currency pilot. All of the world leaders are calling for central bank digital currencies. All of them are on board with building it. The central banks are involved. You've got Visa, MasterCard, all the big banks, Citibank, Bank of America, TD Bank, USBC. They're all involved right now. I've gone over thousands of pages of their white papers on my show. I have a guest who's in finance. He's been on 9 times. He's read personally over 3,000 pages of white papers coming out of Bank for International Settlements, the UN, and everything, all about this stuff. So the issue is that, in my opinion, it's not my opinion that it's coming. It's coming. You're seeing it every day. That's why people listen to these shows, because they're trying to figure out what's going on. All this is coming. Technocracy continues to grow. And, whether you love Trump, hate Trump, love Ron DeSantis, hate Ron DeSantis, you want Trump and Ron DeSantis to be friends, even if those guys are good guys, you think they're good guys. I mean, we'll never know if they're good guys. I don't hang out with these people at their house. I don't know what they do. Right. But if you think they are talking about these issues. All right, they're not going to solve these issues. My personal belief is you could take God at this point and put him in as president of the United States. He's not going to make a difference because the system is just going to continue to grow and grow and grow. The only way you can actually stop it is to exit the system yourself. Like say, I'm leaving, I'm protesting like the Amish, I'm leaving the system. Now, if the government wants to chase you down eventually with guns and kill you, that's going to happen anyway. They don't even need to do that. They can spray chemicals, in the air and kill you. They could laser zap you with an Elon Musk satellite. So, I mean, I don't let that kind of stuff prevent me from moving forward because they could kill you anytime they want. If they wanted to do that, they would have done that already also. But if they're going to take all the people, let's say, that didn't get vaccinated, and they're going to release some disease that kills all of us, or they're going to vaccinate the bees and the mosquitoes, and they're going to sting us and kill us, well, guess what? There's absolutely nothing we're going to do about that anyway. That's how you will die.
Thing. There's nothing that we can do about whatever their plans are is whatever their plans are. So we have to, I think, come to a consensus in your own mind, how you want to live the rest of your life. I mean, do we want to go and chase all these crazy things that they're doing? Or do we want to focus on, personal goals we might have? Because that's where I'm at. I mean, you have your mindset, I think. And like you said, it's not about political party. It's not this or that. It's basically good versus evil. And that's how I've been looking at it. It's good versus evil. And, we have to change our mindset. And when I say that, I mean, you have to change your mindset into figuring out what is the best route for you. How are you going to live moving forward, knowing that, there are these things that they are planning. There's all these different narratives out there. And I want to believe, I do want to believe that because me, Dustin, I'm sort of like Pollyanna in the group of I still want to believe that like we can make a difference on a local level. I mean, there's been a few major things that happen in this area where I'm at. I'm in Grays Harbor County in Washington State. But ultimately, I think that we just have to decide where we want our mindset to be, how we want to move forward from this point on, and be aware of the things that they're doing in order to make these things our norm. And that's the other thing that I wanted to talk about, because this is not a normal thing. We're supposed to be, human beings with individual rights, individuality. This whole hive mind thing, which was another thing that they were talking about with this whole cloud and all of this with the Starlink and that whole thing. I know there's a whole section of people that are for the Starlink. They think it's great. I mean, I've been saying, and I say this to my friends a lot, Starlink, it could be used for good and it could be used for bad. The same thing with everything else. But I just don't think, I think it's meant to. I mean, they've already said, Elon Musk, like I said before, he was on Joe Rogan. And I mean, what do you think, how do you think they're going to hook everybody up? They're going to use the Starlink to do that. Elon Musk, he is funded by government contracts. So it's the government that's doing that. So,
and Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel owns it. Peter Thiel was the first bigwig in SpaceX. Starlink is owned by SpaceX, and Elon Musk does all the contracts for the government. I mean, Elon Musk is a government frontman. Second off, you say technology can be used for good or bad. No, it can't. Technology can only be used for bad. There's nothing good about technology. You can never take any technology you start with to this logical conclusion and never come up with something good. You just can't do it. It's impossible. Technology always progresses to bad. Like, name one technology that actually has created good. I can't. I've thought about it. Can you name one, or on its natural path where it's going, that it is actually good for humanity or freedom?
I do think originally the telephone was good because we were able.
No. I said take it to its logical conclusion. The telephone was not good because look where it ended up. See?
Well, the cell phone situation.
No, because
If
No,
they would have
because
not done that, if we would
no,
have
but
just stayed with the landlines and
that
not progressed from that.
that can't happen. That's what I'm saying. Technology will never. It doesn't stop. Technology never ends. It's only overlapped by another innovation that drives it forward to the next place, and it always will drive to the place of replacing humanity. Any technology you pick, you can do this exercise with, and
Yeah.
it, like you just said, the phone. The phone got us to where we are today. The phone led to the cell phone, the internet,
What
smartphone.
about the typewriter?
The
The
typewriter
typewriter.
ended up progressing into computers, ended up progressing into the iPhone. You can't take any technology that has not gotten us into trouble. The other thing is where you talk about local communities. Here's the issue with the local communities in the current form we live in. You got to try to compare this back to where people were like 300 years ago. There is no sovereignty amongst local communities today. Why? Because communities today have to operate on the technologies that come from the larger centralized structure.
Correct.
So your community today operates on public utilities, on the electric, on the water, on the sewer, on the internet. All of that is what actually creates your local community now. So your local community is not sovereign at all. It doesn't matter what choices and laws you make inside the community. It's never going to be free for the system because it relies 100% on the system to actually exist in its current form. So
but
like that.
Don't you think it's possible, though, that we could break away and have a community that could be independent from that system? I mean, you talk about, remember Nikola Tesla, and all of his innovations with energy and that kind of a thing. I think we could break away and have that if we wanted to.
Oh, no, I think, see, that's what I think the short-term solution is that people can, whether it's just you or you and your family or you and your family and friends or you and a group of people you met online or you and your neighbors, find a piece of land somewhere, right, in the middle of, I just say like West Virginia, places where you can find cheaper land. Then it all depends on, obviously, the geography and temperature and things like that. And you will be able to exit the system as much as you so choose, short of you being governed by that local county, governed by the state, governed by the federal government. That's going to be anywhere in the world, though, because you're always going to have to be under the reign of some government. You're not going to like push off governments. And so if you're able to do that, you're starting at almost zero. Right. There's actually areas like I'm looking at in West Virginia. They're called unrestricted counties. So there's only like a couple hundred people that live in them. They don't really have a government. You don't pay property tax, and you could build whatever you want on your land because they're unrestricted. Now, you do have access sometimes to electricity, these things that you may want. But yeah, I'm just saying, like, your town now, if you live in a town, like, you can't free your town because the majority of towns now are all being hooked up on the smart poles. Towns and cities at this point, including suburbs and even some rural areas now, they're free range prisons. That's what it is. Like, think of yourself as a free range chicken. The coop, the prison cell, is your house. That was proven during COVID land, the high school theater production, when they locked everyone up. When you walk out on the streets or you go driving around and there's smart poles and face scanners and carbon meters, you're just on the prison grounds. That's all it is. So that's the system, and the smart poles are going up everywhere. That's not a conspiracy theory. I covered that yesterday. I got a series I'm working on that. So that's what I'm saying is, like, you have to, I do this exercise with people. Like, people talk about freedom and liberty. Yeah, you hear people on the left do this too, and then people on the right. I want freedom, I want liberty, and you're really like cheering on some sort of like nostalgic fictional fantasy that you've heard that connects back to the founding fathers or something. But when you really stop to think about it, you don't actually know what it means. So I do this exercise. Like, this would be actually raw, true freedom, right? So if you close your eyes and you envision yourself in a cabin in the middle of the woods, and this cabin has no electricity, no internet, and actually has no running water unless you have a well. It's not hooked up to the city. And then maybe a septic tank, but even that, you'd have to get somebody to empty it. So maybe you have to crap in a hole in the ground, right? And all around you, there's no neighbors for miles. Right? Everything that you eat, you have to either grow or you have to hunt. and you have very limited tools and definitely no power tools and nothing that runs on gasoline. Now, that's actually technically true freedom because you're completely disconnected from everything else.
Right.
Now, the question is, I say to people, all right, now, do you actually want that? And the answer is usually no, I don't want that if people are being honest.
Version of that.
So
I want a version of that.
Right. So then I say, so here's the exercise. You have where you are today, the world you live in today, which is only going to be 1,000 times worse 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Like the technology will only get worse. It's only going to get more prison planet style. Like so take where you are today, then take that vision that you came up with in your head and figure out where in between you want to fit in, because that's 1 foot in the matrix and 1 foot out of the matrix. So then figure out along that timeline, like where your point is, and then start to figure out if you say, well, I might want a wood burning stove to heat the house, but I would like to have electricity and I'll use it. But if it goes out or they shut down the grid, I can run my house on the wood burning stove and I live on a piece of land with forest all around me, so I'm never going to run out of wood. I would like to have central air conditioning for when it gets really hot because maybe my homestead is in Florida, but I'm going to build my house so that it's got a cross breeze and it's engineered correctly like they do in Poland and other places. So if the electricity goes out, I can survive, and then start to figure out what that actually looks like. And then that's what you're going to go try to build for yourself. That's like your happy place. And I think we have a little more time than some of us would think. I think we have at least until like 2030, because I don't think that their systems are as connected as they want them to be. Remember, the worker bees are us. So they're relying on us to build these systems from them. Like if you work at Comcast as an installer, you're helping put up the 5G technology. Like you're going to work every day and do it. Well, there's one mistake I think that they made. I think they jabbed everyone a lot sooner than they were supposed to. Because if you go out in the public, you've seen it, Chrissy, there's a lot of people walking around that seem like they have chemo brain. Like people seem dumber, right?
So weird.
And people are dying. So if they injected these people too soon and now they're relying on them to go to work to continue building the technocratic system, but everyone is dropping dead or getting sick or have chemo brain, these guys made a major mistake. So I think we have a little more time. And so on my show, a lot of what I'm going to focus on over the next year is I'm trying to bring on guests to help people figure out how to make like more money in the system right now, more than just your job. Like, how do you go from making $1,000 a week to making $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a week so you can save up this cash that you need in this system to, in 2 or 3 years, be able to then go, I got the money, we're going to West Virginia, or we're going to Montana, or we're going to Idaho, or wherever it may be. Everybody's going to have a different, to build that vision that 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Because like I said, I don't think the majority of people want to live, out in the woods by candlelight. I just don't think most people can cut it. So again, if you can create a lifestyle for yourself that is 20% in the matrix or 30%, but you can also survive at least for a little bit of time outside of it comfortably because you weren't rushed into it. You actually did the plans and came up with how you're going to put it together. Like if I can help people figure out how to do that, that's great. But if you just say freedom, liberty, but you don't know what it means, because guess what? If you're talking about when I was a kid, like I would say now, I just turned 42.
When I was a kid.
Yeah. Well, when we were a kid, we didn't really have freedom either. We were under the Federal Reserve came into place in 1913. Like we didn't have freedom. The central bank owned our country. You were not technically free. They started unleashing all the credit cards in the 1970s and 80s, getting everyone trapped in debt slavery. So that's why I say you have to visualize this space of nothing and then start to build what you want that nothing to actually be, and then start to literally write your goals down and motivate yourself to go out and do it, because you're not going to, I don't think you're going to stop. You can't stop what this other system looks like because it's so big. Now, I continue to educate myself and others on it because I think it's important to understand this, because this is what's going to tell you what's coming in 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, so that when you build this new life for yourself, you can try to work around some of these problems that are coming down the path at you and not have to go 3 years from now. You go, oh crap, I should have did all my gardening in a greenhouse because these guys are cloud seeding and they're trying to destroy all the plants. Like if you know that's coming, you can start to build a solution that's going to take care of that problem. And once it happens, everybody goes, my crops are dying. You go, hey, I built a 2,000 square foot steel warehouse and I grow all my vegetables indoors. So screw them. Let them destroy the array. You know?
And I think that's a good idea. You know, you have to start planning ahead and thinking ahead. And you know, and I mean, like, this is the other thing I wanted to mention. I mean, you know, we talk about God being part of this whole, part of our lives. I mean, they've been trying to take God out of our lives for, you know, how long? You know, they don't even want it on the money, which I think is another part of this whole digital system that they're trying to come to, the cryptocurrency. And there's a lot of people that are, you know, totally fine with, you know, doing the cryptocurrency and everything. And I'm of the belief that we need real, like, money. I don't agree with this whole digital currency crap. I think that it's bad. Then you have one entity controlling all your money. You know, the system that they want to do, basically, with the cryptocurrencies, they don't want to have, like, for instance, I'm a very big garage sailing person. Every summer, I do garage sailing. It's my fun. You know, I like to go and I find, you know, antiques and things like that. And, you know, if you have a digital system, it's all going to be cataloged and everything like that. I mean, I can't buy a what do you call it? I don't know, a tent. Somebody has a tent at a garage sale. Oh, okay. Well, I have to use my digital currencies for that. I mean, what is this? I mean, it's just it is a prison planet. And I don't like it.
And the thing is, and it's not. Yeah, and it's not just. That's not just here. You know, first off, all the plans for the central bank digital currency originate from Bank for International Settlements. Now, Bank for International Settlements was founded in 1930. It is the bank for the central banks. And as people know, the central banks, like ours is the Federal Reserve System, it's in 190 countries. There's only like 9 countries left, but they're the size of a thimble, that don't have a central bank, but they have like a different version of the central bank. So the whole system is run out of the Bank for International Settlements. And then you have the branch off that was created in 1944, which is the International Monetary Fund. They're basically the economic terrorists that go in and steal all the resources. And then the World Bank. And so you can go through, I'm talking thousands of pages of white papers. It's not conspiracy theory. As far as I could see, there's not some secret force that's going to stop it. Like, these are the most powerful people in the world, the bankers. And behind the curtain of the Bank for International Settlements, the owners of the central banks. You can't get behind the curtain of the central banks to see who the owners are. That's where the Iron Curtain is actually drawn. That's where a lot of people believe it's the Rockefellers or the Rothschilds or that kind of stuff behind that curtain. But if you watch, I've watched and analyzed many videos, panel discussions coming out of the World Bank, the UN, World Economic Forum, Bank for International Settlements. I'm talking with the high-ranking directors of these organizations. The whole point of central bank digital currency is that it is programmable money, all right, meaning they can control where you buy, when you buy, who you buy from. It's expirable money, meaning they could give you, let's say, your universal basic income, which is coming. That's part of all this. Or let's say Social Security check.
But it's all in a digital. So
or your Social Security check, which they give it to you on the 1st of the month. You have to use it all by the 30th of the month. The whole point of this is you're not allowed to build wealth in the system. So you can't save them, you can't transfer them, you can't trade them, you can't gift them to somebody when you die. They're gone. So there's no wealth. And then it's all based on this whole carbon credit stuff. So they're going to measure carbon and rate how much carbon you pollute, and that's how many tokens you're going to get. And what they're doing right now is in 105 countries at least as of a month ago. They're doing running all the CBDC tests. China already has theirs running in different test cases. We did a test here about 2 months ago out of the Federal Reserve. Visa and MasterCard are on board. All the major financial companies are on board. Visa and MasterCard have access to like 90 million and 80 million merchants worldwide that they're going to actually accept it. And then you're going to be able to use the CBDC off your current Visa card or your MasterCard or your Amex card. So it makes it easily adoptable. So people are going to not, like if you go to the store and you plug in your debit card and it says, do you want to use credit, debit, or CBDC? That's how actually it's all starting.
Yeah.
And so that's how the system works, but it's all completely 100% about control. They admit it. There's no conspiracy theory. They admit it in their papers. They admit it in their speeches. They admit it in their panel discussions. They're literally telling people what they're going to do, and it's all run by the Bank for International Settlements. Now, obviously, many of us about freedom and liberty have been bitching about the fiat cash currency system for many years coming out of the Federal Reserve in 1913. Right now, the best thing you can do is actually spend that cash and not be running around using your debit card for transactions all day anyway, because you're opening yourself up to being hacked. I know more and more people every day that are having money stolen from them. Fake wire transfers, their account gets hacked. And this is all it's all orchestrated. This is the collapse of that system to drive people into the solution, which will be central bank digital currency and some form of a microchip, like a rice grain sized microchip in your hand. That's already real. It's not a conspiracy theory. There's people actually getting a chip put into the fatty part of their hand. And so
for a long time, the Chinese people and then some of the big corporations, that's what they do.
Their employees are getting them. Yeah, no, it's nuts. So all this stuff is happening, and the solution to it is starting to prepare yourself now to exit the system, because you're not going to stop it. But if you start to build out a community for yourself. Look, I've had people reach out for my show, and I'm not huge yet, who have said to me, my husband and I want to move. Where are you looking to go in West Virginia? We're interested. Can we all buy in the same area? I've had like about 10 people reach out to me. I have a local organic farmer here that I buy stuff from. She's retiring in a few years. She wants a piece of land out in West Virginia and do the same thing. So that is the beginning of being able to build out a community. And it's just the beginning of exiting the system, because you're not going to stop central bank digital currency, but you could build a community and start trading on pine cones and seashells or whatever it is that you actually want to trade in. You can start to build a barter network. If you're someone who is going to be growing potatoes and your neighbor is raising cattle, you could create a barter network. The other thing I think it's important, I've been stressing to my audience too, is if you're, as I was most of my life, a creative, but if you're like a web developer or a computer programmer, graphic designer, and this is your main source of income, start to use some of your time to learn a skill that I call like an off-the-grid skill. Like right now, I taught myself the last couple months how to make bread, like really good bread. And as soon as it warms up a little, I'm building an outdoor like oven out of bricks so I can bake bread off a fire. And so I figure if I can bake really good bread off a fire, okay, now I'm allowed to live in the community because I provide a service to you guys. Now, if I come into the community and I say, listen, I'm a freaking computer programmer, I expect you guys to shoot me because I offer no skills to the community whatsoever. I mean, so I think start to learn a skill that you can bring to the table in sort of an off-the-grid type of community. Because the way I see it is, and I've thought this through, like realistically, would I want to live this way? Do I think it's a better way of life? I think it is almost like how the Amish do it. The Amish in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is a big area, and people probably have gone on vacation and seen this at some point in their life. They live pretty much outside of the matrix. And then on the weekends, they go into Philadelphia in an old railroad station called Reading Terminal, and they sell, their bacon, their fudge, their crafts and everything to all of us idiots who buy it because we think it's funny to look at the bearded ladies of the Amish community, and and then they use that cash, which they need to buy tractors and things, equipment that they can't trade for potatoes. So they step into the matrix. So that's why I say those are the type of communities that I see popping up. And again, there's cycles of civilization. So you'll start it today, and 10 years later, it'll probably be worse. And 20 years when it just grows back into what today is. Who cares? That's up to the people 500 years from now in that community to do what I'm talking about now and start it all over again. The way that we're raising our son, we've made a decision. Like, first off, we're homeschooling, so he's not going to any public indoctrination center. We've already started building a community around here of other people that homeschool, people we met through the midwife service we use because we exited the Rockefeller medical industrial complex system.
I want you to tell everybody what happened when you had to go to the hospital when he was born.
Oh yeah, well, I'll tell that. So, but I was to say, so we're building this community of those type of people around us, and you would be surprised because you're going to find that some of them are people who were, let's say, identified as MAGA or they're hunter type people, and then you're going to find like old school tree hugging liberal type people that are like old school hippies, like the old school anti-establishment
like
hippies.
The real civil rights movement people that used to stand up that were like normal this is the other thing.
Well, they were screaming about freedom and liberty, but not from a crazy standpoint.
That's what Democrats were. So back in the day, I mean, when you go back towards Kennedy and my mother voted for Kennedy. I'm just saying. So go ahead.
But no, I was going to say, so the way that we're going to raise our son is we're going to teach him everything from, this is all part of real homeschool, because it's about, teaching your kid how to survive the world and then hopefully be able to thrive in the world. And when they turn, when they become an adult, they're going to decide if they want to thrive. Some people don't care about like making a ton of money. They just want to live simply. So we're going to teach him everything from hunting and butchering to gardening, all the way to the world of technology, making him understand that this is like a slave system. But when he's 16, 17, 18, if he decides he wants to live in the slave system, that's his choice. But I have to prepare him to be able to survive as much as possible in the slave system if he decides to go that way. And if not, and he decides he wants to just live off the land or something, he has the skills to do that. I think that is, in this world with everything I know and people are waking up, that's the responsible way to raise a kid right now, because it's almost impossible to predict what jobs and things are going to be available 10, 12, 15, 16 years from now. You can't really predict what jobs are going to be needed 16 years from now or what skill sets. It's in the technological system. Once it hits exponential growth, everything we know today could be completely different 12 years from now. Right. Like all cars could be autonomous. There could be no truck drivers. Imagine millions of truck drivers gone. God, so you can't really think about raising your kid to be a specific, job from the time they're little, because it's not going to be the same. 16 years from now, I guarantee, if the technocratic system survives, if the technological system survives and doesn't crumble on its own weight, there will be no nurses. There will be no doctors. That won't even be a thing. That's all going to be done through AI and robotics. Yeah, it's going to be teledoctor or whatever. Yeah, well, and surgeries are already being done by robots in some places. And then on top of it, lawyers are going to be gone. Peter Thiel is actively working to replace the whole legal system with artificial intelligence. They just had a court case the other day with the first artificial intelligence lawyer that was Peter Thiel's project. So you can't think that system is going to be there, because it's not. There's going to be one world that grows, which is this technocracy. The main system that everybody lives in is plugged into the matrix. And there may be small pockets of resistors that have left the system. That doesn't mean you have to go in with pitchforks and guns and fight the system, because that's going to get you killed. You basically want to keep your head low, exit the system, live a happy life while you're not trying to really provoke the system to laser zap you, because that system is so powerful. It's backed by trillions of dollars of fake money. It's backed by technology. Every government's involved with it. All the politicians are part of it. So I think the key thing is exiting the system. Like you just asked me about what my wife and I did. We decided we did not want to be part of the Rockefeller medical industrial complex. And when I say that, the current medical system we're under now, people could go back to late 1800s, early 1900s, look at the Flexner report. You'll see when the Rockefellers literally took over the medical system. We moved really from a holistic, natural approach to medicine where we focused on treating root causes instead of symptoms into the system we have today, which just treats symptoms. So when you go to the doctor and you have a cough, they plug that into their app, and their app comes up and gives them like 4 different things it could be, and then they tell you what drugs to go take. That's it. That's the system that we live in today. They don't treat the root cause. And the why in this system is because the root cause, they would have to tell you, well, the 5G towers are radiating you. Oh, all the years of living in under these radio waves, you've basically been microwaved. The water you're drinking from the plastic bottles that are petroleum-based is poisoning you. Oh, the GMO food that you've been eating, it's eating away your liver. So the doctors aren't trained to tell you that nor look for it. They're not going to tell you that. They're just going to look on their app and they're going to go, oh, you have a cough. Oh, you have white spots, strep throat. Okay, here's the drug that you're going to take.
It's so insane.
So what we did is we looked at several of the midwiferys. Basically, they'll manage your home birth. And so what happened, you always have a backup plan and you're prepared for this. You work with the midwives and then your doula, and you're prepared if you have to go into the hospital, and how to actually fight the system and escape the system once you have to go in there. So my wife labored at home for 48 hours. And we've even learned some more stuff since this happened 10 weeks ago. We would have even done it different now than we did then. But she had an infection come on. The midwives made the call to transfer to the hospital. So we ended up having to go into the hospital, and I was prepared to deal with it. So we went in there, and first it's COVID land, the high school theater production all over again. You got to wear masks. Then they come in the room and they say, we're going to give you a COVID test. I said, no, you're not. Take the Q-tip and shove it up your rear. And I can't
believe they were going to do that. What was the purpose of that?
It's protocol. It's protocol. You have to get a COVID test. So then they come in and they go, listen, if you're not going to get a COVID test, then we have to wear PPE, personal protective equipment. I said, good. Well, wear the PPE. I don't give a crap. So then they come in. So the PPE, I'm not kidding you, it's 2 paper masks. I mean, these were the paper ones that are like the size of like a playing card. It's like the size of a playing card made out of like tissue paper that you put in a gift bag for someone.
Oh my God.
With like the stretched out rubber bands. That's what the mask is. And you can see the people's mouth hanging out the side. And so
I had that when I went, that's so weird too, because you see the lips, but you can't see any. But
and it's like folded by like folded like an accordion.
Yeah, it's so freaky. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, all I could do was like, anyway, I had that when I went to the ear doctor, and I was the only other patient in the entire building. I was the last thing. This woman comes in and she's wearing this thing. I almost started laughing because I was just like, oh my God, it's creepy looking. Anyway, go ahead.
So they made it so they have to wear 2 of those, and then they have a plastic, like a lobster bib.
Yes.
It looks like a plastic lobster bib that goes down to their thigh. It's just a front piece of plastic. Like a tank top that goes. So I started laughing. I said, that's your personal protective equipment? And she goes, well, I said, listen, that's like wrapping your arms in tinfoil and telling me it's going to save you when you jump into a burning house.
What did she say? It must have been like, oh my God, what did they say?
Oh, they were. I had them laughing. Some were mad. Like the doctor, I did not like the doctor they sent in to deal with us. So this guy, he's bitching about the COVID thing, and I said to him, I said, listen, let me ask you guys a question. I said, how many are you guys? I want a show of hands who's vaccinated, because whoever's vaccinated, I want you wearing a hazmat suit before you come in here, because I don't want you getting my wife and I sick. And so, like, it was nuts. So I had to deal with this whole string of like issues that came up, and managing them wanting to give my wife antibiotics, and managing, you have to keep an eye on every bag they're hanging on that they're going to try to stick into your body. And then right now it's crazy. The nurse walks around with a scanner gun, like she's at Costco, like bleep, 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 bleep. She scans everything for the billing. Like, so they have a bag of something, bleep, 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 bleep. And like it actually makes the beep like you're at the grocery store. It's crazy.
Oh my God.
So anyway, so at the end of this whole scary situation, she gives birth. Everything's fine. I got it where they didn't, because one of the big things you have to worry about when they claim there's an infection is that when your kid's born, they want to take it away and lock it in like a room and load it up with antibiotics for 48 hours, and you don't get to touch it or see it. And if you're on COVID quarantine, which we were, you're not allowed to see it for 7 days. So I have to start fighting that system. And luckily our doula, who's like really versed in the system, she was like, when we hired her, she works with your wife, and she's like supplemental to the midwife.
Yeah.
And one of our midwives were there. So I had them, and they're familiar with the hospital. So I told them, like, I'm going to be the dick and you guys be the reason one. Let's play good cop, bad cop. I finally got commitment from it's called the NICU team. They're the ones they're like the pediatrician that manages the child when they come out. I got them to clear them. So within like an hour, they moved us to the recovery room, and my wife's like, let's get the hell out of here. So then I'm like, hey, we want to leave. Do we need to sign any insurance forms or anything? Oh, you can't leave. It's against the doctor's orders. I said, well, give me a reason. Like, does my wife have blood clotting and she's going to die? Well, no, it's precautionary. Okay, does my son have heart murmurs? No. All right, we're leaving. We live 7 minutes from here. So finally got the hell out of there. But you have to be careful, because they'll threaten CPS on you, Child Protective Services. But I knew all this. Then they play this other game where they say, if you leave against the doctor's orders, your insurance company might not cover the bill. I start laughing. I said, yeah, okay. I learned about that in the birth class we took. That's been a lie for 35 years you guys made up. I said, actually, it's so dishonest. That would be like this, Chrissy. Let's say you found out that you had, I don't know, God forbid, you had cancer or something, right? And the doctor wants you to do chemo. So you do like 10 chemo treatments, and then they're done. And then they come back after the next set of scans and they say, the doctor decided he wants to do radiation and surgery. And you say, listen, I'm just going to die. I don't want to get the radiation and surgery. And then they go, well, your insurance company isn't going to cover the chemo treatments. Like it doesn't work that way, folks. So never let these liars and these scammers, push you around inside of the system. This is why we wanted nothing to do with the system. And actually, if we did it again, we probably would have just rolled the dice on the infection. And my wife said next time, she goes, she said, if we have another one, she's like, I don't even think we're going to use the midwife. We're just going to rent a cabin and go out in the woods and have the baby there by ourselves.
Oh my God. It's crazy. Well, my mother, the week before Christmas, she called me at like 4 a.m., which is weird. And, I live 3 hours from her. Okay. My brother lives 10 minutes from her, but she calls me at 4 a.m. and I just happen to be up because I couldn't sleep. One of my usual, I was having insomnia. Anyway, and she's like, I've got this pain, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, you need to go to the ER. You need to call an ambulance. And she's like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to go. I said, well, you have to. And then I let her, I'm like, well, let me know what you do. And then 20 minutes later, I'm like, you have to go. You can't just sit there and wait. So she called an ambulance. The ambulance comes to get her. And they take her into the ER, and she had the CT scan, and basically she got the jab. Okay, she got the first jab. She has not had a anything other than that. But she got the first jab, and what they said was that there was something blocking the blood from getting to the bowels. Okay, that's why she was having all this pain. So they went in immediately, did a surgery. Okay, they found this like weird soft tissue had adhered to part of her intestine, which is what was blocking the aortic valve, right, from giving blood to her bowels. So anyway, so they went in, they removed it and everything like that. Well, she had the jab, so I'm sure that it's probably part of whatever the hell is developing in her body. So anyway, but the crazy thing was that, of course, I'm 3 hours away. I didn't drive up that day. I drove up the next day, and my brother goes there. And they immediately put my mother on the COVID floor of this hospital. And I'm like, why is she on that floor? Oh, well, we just want to, it's just for, to make sure that she's okay, that she has, it's just more, what did they say? They said it was more sanitary to have her on the COVID floor. I mean, let's be honest. They get more money if she's on the COVID floor. That's what it is. So then I said to my brother, I said, well, did you see her? Well, no, they wouldn't let me in. I said, what do you mean they wouldn't let you in? I said, you're allowed to have, I went on the website on that particular hospital, you can have 2 patient supporters. I said, so you need to go. And well, he didn't want to stand up. He didn't want to be an advocate for her. And so she was been there by herself. Who knows what the hell was going on. And so I drove up the next day, and of course they released her. My brother went and picked her up. But this is the problem, is that people, they don't understand you have to be an advocate for yourself, and you have to advocate for who are just stupid enough. My brother is one of these people that will not stand up. I mean, that's all it was. And they think that I'm crazy or that I'm trying to start something. That isn't the case. I just feel like, listen, you have to be an advocate, and you have to stand up, and you have to say, no, it says on your website that I could be there. Why are you putting her, you ask questions. It's okay to question. Everybody just thinks this is the system. And that's the other thing that really just irritates. Everybody's just willing to sort of like roll over and just accept these things, whatever it is that they roll out, whatever it is. I don't care if it's technology, or you have to do this, you have to do that. I mean, it's ridiculous. Why don't people? Why are they afraid to stand up and just question? It's because these people, they beat us down. I mean, obviously, look at how bad it was for us. I mean, we've been censored off of Twitter a long time ago. Justin and I, I mean, we both lost 3. I mean, I've lost 4 accounts now. But it's insanity. So I mean, bottom line is, you have to be, when your health is concerned, and if you're going in to any kind of system, you have to ask questions, and you have to be an advocate for yourself.
Yeah, it's like anything else. And the world we're living in today, you have to be an advocate for yourself in everything. That's the sad part. But you have to be your own lawyer now. You have to be your own doctor. You have to be your own everything, because right now, I mean, it was pretty bad before COVID Land the High School Theater production kicked off. But now, in almost any interaction I have to make inside of what I call the system, when I have to go into the matrix, you're dealing with people that are either 1, incompetent, 2, corrupt, 3, stupid, 4, lazy, or 5, they're just robots. They're order takers. And that's generally what you're working with now. Talk about the hospital system. And I did a whole podcast on that, like 3.5 hours of our experience. People want to listen to that. But I just had to 2 weeks ago. I was trying to sort out the bills. Now, I am someone, I'll be honest with your audience, I haven't entered the matrix system in, since I was 18, so 24 years. I went to the hospital 1 time in 24 years, and that's because I was jumped in Las Vegas by a
Oh,
pack of
that's
wild
right.
Mexicans, and I got knocked out and ended up having to go to the hospital. I've only been to 2 walk-in clinics in 24 years. One time I had a tooth infection from a tooth that cracked at a restaurant. I held it off for a couple of years. And then I forgot what I was feeling so sick, I just went. Like it was last resort. Also, haven't carried insurance for 24 years. I lied on my taxes under Obama. I'll just admit that now. I checked the box that I had Obamacare, did not have it. No one was going to force me to buy anything I didn't want to buy. You know what that is? Not complying with tyranny, folks. I will not comply with tyranny. If I don't like the way the system operates, I'm not going to comply with it. This is the way it works. So for me, it was all new experience. Now, luckily, my wife has insurance through her employer that she's been with for 10 years, and it's really good because otherwise, for the 12 hours we were at the hospital, our bill was $32,000.
Wow.
Now, once it was with the deductibles, I think it turned out to be $2,800. Well, what happened was we get the bills in the mail. And when you go to the hospital, I mean, you probably know this, Chrissy, instead of just getting one bill, I mean, this is what people, now I know why people have been complaining all these years. You get a bill from the hospital, then you get a bill from like JoJo's janitor service, then you get one for like the lady who cleaned the sheets. Then you get one from this doctor, that doctor, you get one. So we get all these, and then on their insurance portal, that was well organized. You could see what the bill was, but you don't have an itemized breakdown. And then it says what you owe. So I am trying to call the hospital, trying to figure this out. Of course, you call the hospital. I recorded this. It says, thank you for calling Frederick Health Hospital due to COVID-19. This is 2 weeks ago. Due to COVID-19, we're experiencing a shortage of staff. I'm like, I'm calling the billing department. This is who you pay. Don't you want my money? So I'm trying to match up the paper bills with what's in the insurance portal because I want to make sure we have everything before I negotiate a payment plan, because by law they have to extend you an interest-free payment plan. So my feeling is the $2,800 is better in my pocket right now than in their pocket. So if I could pay them $100 a month for the next 2 years, that's what I'm going to do. So I can't get anyone on the phone. I'm leaving messages. Finally, I go down to the hospital. I get there, and I'm asking the security guards, who clearly had chemo brain. I'm like, where's the billing department? Billing department? What's the billing department? Accounts receivable. Accounts receivable? And then finally, they're like, oh, you mean the cashier? I'm like, no, the cashier is like the lady who works in the cafeteria that sells coffee. Like, where's the billing? Like, oh, no, it's called the cashier. So then I go to this thing, and they have a window. It looks like a toll booth. And it literally has a sign above it that says cashier. And I'm like, oh, my God. And it's one chair with one plexiglass window. This is who does all the billing for the hospital. The lady, I took a picture of it. I think I put it on Twitter. She was asleep at her desk, hunched over and asleep. So I'm careful about waking her up because I know she's the only one who's going to be able to answer my questions. So I end up waking her up. And the next thing I'm thinking, I'm talking to like the cleaning lady that just came here from Peru. She's never spoke English in her life. I could barely understand her. So she's telling me she can't figure out this and the bills aren't in the system. And anyway, I end up leaving there more confused than I was when I got there. Luckily, I finally get through to the insurance company, and they were able to help me. 2 of the bills still don't match up, and the hospital claims they can't find them in their system. I mean, this is the problem. Like I said, we're dealing with a society, and this was pre-COVID land, but where we celebrate mediocrity, and we celebrate, mental retardation. I mean, I don't like, I'm not making fun of people who are mentally handicapped, but everyone now is mentally handicapped. So you're dealing with incompetent, corrupt, stupid, lazy robots. And so you have to literally be an advocate in everything that you're doing. And, it's sad that it's that way, but you can't even trust, like the doctor you're dealing with your mom or the doctor we deal with. They might not be evil, but guess what? They grew up going through college under the Rockefeller Medical Industrial Complex handbook. The vast majority of doctors are going to follow the handbook. It's maybe 2% of them go, hey, something doesn't make sense, and they do their own research, and then they become the ones who speak out and then lose their license and get thrown off of all the social media. But the vast majority just go along with what they learned. I mean, look, if you're a mechanic and you went to a tech school and you learned how to take an engine apart, and until Mr. Miyagi comes along and he shows you a better way to take the engine apart, why would you ever go try to explore another way to do it? You just paid money to go to college to learn how to take an engine apart. If that's the way you're going to do it. So unfortunately, this is the system we're in. So if you want to navigate it, every time you step into the matrix, whether to go to the grocery store or whether you got to go to a bank, you have to be like on high alert. That's how I see it now. I hate doing it. I mean, it's like stepping into the matrix. I'm like, shit, got to plug into the back of my head and walk into the grocery store and, go amongst all the weirdos. I mean, that's just how it is at this point.
It's horrible. And it's just like, it's sort of like you have to get your mindset. Like when I was a defense investigator for 17 years, whatever, criminal defense. And, I'd have a victim interview at the prosecutor's office, and you have to get your mind, you have to gear up because it's a game to them. They think that it's their witness, right? But it's not. It's not their witness. We have every right to have access and to question their witnesses as they have to talk to ours. So anyway, but it was just like a game. You have to prepare in your mind that you're going in and you have to have that wall up. And that sucks because you have to have a wall up and you have to just, do what you got to do and then get out. And it's really sad that this is where we're at in this country. And the other thing I wanted to mention is, you mentioned how, somebody could be a cyborg or whatever. It's either like a cyborg, whatever. There's all these clones that are running around. Apparently, there's all.
I don't know what they are.
I don't know what they are. I mean, there's there's also this other. They call them what is it? Non-person, whatever.
Non-player character. Yeah, NPC.
Yeah, and I'm just like, well, yeah. I mean, if you don't have a soul, then you're not a real person or you're not a real entity. You're just you're created, mechanical or whatever. And so that's going on. That's crazy, cloning. And I wanted to touch upon, before you go, hold on a minute. Yeah, and I wanted to talk about, and we're going to kind of change a little bit. I just wanted to talk about the Antichrist system, because there's a lot of that going around where people are saying that the Antichrist is going to rise in 2030. I listened to Bo Pony. He says he's an analyst of time, and he looks at what's going on in the world and puts it in with the Bible, right? And what Revelation says and this and that. And I will say I do think that the Antichrist is going to rise, but I keep hoping that whatever those of us that are doing what we're doing to change things, I just kind of hope that we push that off. I mean, this earth has been here for billions and billions of years. They keep saying that we're in the end days and this is the end this and this. I honestly don't think we are, because there's a lot more stuff that needs to happen. They talk about the 7 seals, right? They need to break. As I understand it, supposedly 3 have broken out of the 7. But there are major things that need to happen before we even get to that point where, there's people that are talking about, the tribulation and all of that. And that basically, I mean, the narrative out there for the Christians, I'm going to say, is that, in 2030, the Antichrist is going to rise, and then we're going to have 7 years of tribulation under him. And then, Jesus comes back. I mean, what are your thoughts on all of that? Because I know you've been doing some stuff on Antichrist and what's going on with that. So,
yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, I grew up Protestant in a congregational church, and then didn't really go to church from about age 16, 17. Over the years, I've gone in and out of church for funerals and some, Christmas Eve type ceremonies. And so it wasn't until we knew our son was being born, that we decided we want to get back involved with Christianity. My wife grew up Catholic in Poland. She didn't want to go the route of Catholicism. So we started, we went to an independent Christian church on Christmas Eve, and then we went to a home church, actually a home fellowship on Christmas Day. A friend of ours we met through the midwifery service, she had 3 children with the midwife that we used, invited us. It was pretty cool because we ended up finding out that this home fellowship started years ago. It started off with homeschool families. And so I started talking to our mutual friend, Dan Golvach, who's been studying theology for 40 years. So I had him on the show. We talked a little bit about this, and then it got into the discussion of the Antichrist and the beast system. And I was just walking Dan through questions like, what kind of a man could actually connect with the whole world in the time that we live in with hundreds of languages? How could this actually occur? So we start down the path of discussing artificial intelligence, and I've been telling Dan what I know about artificial intelligence, and then the ability to basically have these AI robots that can literally be personalized to each of us, like a projection, essentially. So could the Antichrist come in that form? And it looks like a Ugandan with a plate lip when it's talking to a Ugandan with a plate lip, or it looks like me when it's talking to me, or it comes to me in the form of a beautiful woman. To you, it comes to you in the form of Fabio. So it was a really good conversation. Then a few guests reached out from my audience, one of which was a guy named Mark. He's a truck driver. His wife was she's a retired graphic designer. He's been studying theology and Christianity for 40 years. So he came on and filled in a lot of gaps that Dan wasn't able to answer. And then I've got another pastor who's going to be coming on, and then the pastor from this home fellowship is going to come on. And there's, you know, as far as like reading the Bible and the scripture, there's different interpretations. Some people read it more literally. Some read it sort of in order. At the end of the day, I think everyone is followers of Christ in this circle. They just kind of come from different teachings. Makes it kind of confusing for someone like me who always likes to know, well, what's the freaking answer? And so in this case, you'll never really, you'll never really know, because some people think more about the Temple Mount in Israel and the third temple's got to be built. And some people see it like this. Well, the pastor whose house we went to a couple of services. This is a small group of like 25 people. It's more like a sort of a Bible study. So I was asking him, and he doesn't know he knew a little bit about central bank digital currency and these things, but he doesn't like study this stuff like crazy. So I asked him about this and end times and stuff and the rapture and his opinion and what's their take on it, because they're like non-denominational Christian. So he said to me, listen, I do believe all that stuff is actually real and will happen, but I don't think anyone could predict when. I think it's actually wrong to try to make the predictions. And he said, this is what I will tell you. The way it works in the time of, say, the Bible versus like the timeline, this kind of realm we live in, it could be 1 million years away. So live your life, work on exiting the system, encourage others to leave the system, point out evil when you see it. If you're going to go out and preach the word of Christ, do that. If you're not comfortable doing that, at least point out evil. Try to help others escape the system. And he goes, because you might not be raptured. That might be coming in 1 million years. And he said, and you can't stop fighting back. You can't stop living your life. You can't sit there and say, well, it's all coming to an end. God's going to save me. Because he said, that's not the answer either. You can't wait for God to come and save you from this. It's your job to try to fight back against evil. So I've been taking his advice, and the more, I think 3 or 4 more pastors with just different, it's not different takes on it. They just interpret some of the scripture differently, or the timeline. I find it to be fascinating to listen to them all. And I think if they were all sitting in a room, they'd all be very respectful to each other. I think people just sort of interpret it differently. It depends on who taught them. because they're all reading, all of them are reading out of the King James, 1610 Bible, I think. And then a lot of them use like the New American just because it has some of the interpretations from like Old English into like modern English. So they're all reading from the same thing. It's just sort of different takes on it. But I find it to be fascinating as well, because I do believe that there is a dark, like spiritual underbelly beneath the real rulers of the system. Now, at this point, I don't necessarily believe, as evidenced by the amount of work that they have to put forward into these thousands of pages of documents coming out of Bank for International Settlements and World Economic Forum. I don't believe we're fighting anything supernatural at this point, because if they were like crazy lizard people or aliens or whatever, they would just snap their fingers. They would just kill all of us and build whatever the hell they want to build. What are they waiting for? They wouldn't be like employing humans to write thousands of pages of documents to develop a CBDC currency that they've been trying to drive us into for 50 years. Like, they wouldn't have to go through all that. So that is one of the major pluses after doing 150 episodes, that I find myself able to say, look, I think we're still fighting humans. I think we're fighting flesh and blood. This is why they are so nervous about pushing too hard, too fast, because if they do always run the risk of us rising up. We don't even have to be organized, and go into the mayor's house and go into the local banker's house and ripping them out of their house and lighting them on fire in their front yard. Like, that kind of stuff, I do think they still fear. And if they fear that, then that tells me that they are still flesh and blood, which is a plus for us. The other thing I've always brought up is that technocracy and the technological system is a giant paper tiger. That's the silver lining. It operates on technology. If someone could walk over and pull the power cord on all the technology, their internet goes down and it's all done. Their laboratories go down, their Frankenstein technology goes down, everything goes down. So that's a plus too. So this is why I say I think time is sort of on our side as far as being able to build your exit strategy and not think you have to do it by next week. Because if tomorrow CBDC magically shows up and they're shooting lasers out of smart poles and killing us in the streets, there's nothing you're going to do about that. You can't control that tomorrow. But if you start, if you sit down and you write out, just like you would do with a business or with life goals, and you write down your 10-year plan. I say make it 7 years, because 2030 is safer to aim for. And start working towards that. There's a pretty good chance that I think you're going to be able to exit and be able to live a decent life separate from this system for quite some time. Again, if they're going to come roll in there with army tanks, or they're going to shoot you out of the sky, or they're going to poison all your stuff with chemtrails, not a whole lot you can do about that right now,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we just individually, you have to do what's good for you and what you feel is right. I mean, everybody's different, right? And I'm of the belief that I still, me, I mean, I'm Pollyanna. I'm still trying to believe that, we can maybe make some changes on small community county levels, but we'll see. I don't know. I'm still in that a little bit. I've been trying to get, this is the crazy thing about that. So I'll just briefly say, I've been with the GOP over here in my county for about 2 years now, 3 years, 2.5 years, whatever. And I mean, like, I keep saying I'm done, because you have to, at some point, I just go, this isn't gonna work. This isn't gonna work. But then something happens and I get pulled back in on it. So I just feel like I think we do have to work on our communities on a community level. But I also
well, that's what we do. Like I said, my community level is we've built good relationships with some of the local, like, organic farmers, the true organic farmers. Like this one woman, I could literally, like, at this point, like if we had to move in her barn, she'd probably let us. She just said the other day, why don't we both look for land in the same area in West Virginia? I'll be your neighbor and I'll tutor you and train you how to build an organic farm.
Oh,
So
that'd be great.
those kind of people, our doula has introduced us to other people that homeschool, have kids that are not vaccinated. We've made some friends out of the midwife thing. So we're building our own community around us. As far as I'm not getting involved with politics here. Don't care about it. All the development that's going on in what was once a beautiful rural town, a farm town here, which we're not staying in. We'll be leaving here in the next year or two. But all those decisions are made. All that comes out of UN sustainability. That was done years ago. The deal's done. Nobody's going to stop the 300 condo units they're building everywhere around the place. So
they're doing that.
Yeah, so it's like, what am I going to do? I'm going to get involved with politics. I'm going to fight and complain about this. It's still going to happen. And then what? I'm going to go to war with it. I'm going to buy a tank and start running people's houses over. And, it's just it's not realistic. So I'd rather not waste my time that could be used on more valuable, working on goals in a more valuable way than banging my head against the wall, worried about what the governor of this state's going to do. The governor of the state's going to do whatever the hell he wants. It doesn't matter if you organize 5 people or 1 million people, and you're not going to organize 1 million people. It's impossible because the only way to organize that many people now is on the internet. And if you're a real threat to the system, they just make you disappear off the internet. They don't even have to kill you anymore. If they turned off, just think about this, where you live. If they turned off all your social media, your YouTube account, your StreamYard that you're streaming on, if they turn off your internet, if they turn off your phone, and they turn off your bank account, you no longer exist, Chrissy. You're stuck in your house, and the next thing you know, you can't pay your rent because your bank account's turned off. You'll be living in a box in a couple of weeks when your landlord throws you out, and you can't even get in your car and drive anywhere because you can't fill it up with gas. Well, guess what? That's the central bank digital currency system combined with social score. So the thing is, they can just turn you off and you don't exist. They don't even have to kill you anymore. They just go, you don't exist. You could take a celebrity. If that celebrity is banned from making movies, making shows, and getting on TV, that celebrity no longer exists to anyone. He unless you see him wandering down the street talking to himself on Hollywood Boulevard, the guy doesn't exist anymore. So that's why at this point, I'm like, would I rather try to fight some little local political thing, and I did all that stuff in my 20s when I didn't know any better, or would I rather be sitting here I'm doing my show, obviously to wake up others at the same time? It's basically homeschool curriculum I'm building for my son and making some money off it, because if I build it up, the way there's only certain ways to make money in the podcasting space. But if I build it up, I can bring in more money every month than I could selling my time. So I have that, and I'm doing some consulting, creative work now, because it's always been my thing. And I'm just doing some of that. And then I've got this other little cash-based business I'm starting, and I just need to save for another year or two, combined with, my wife, and boom, we can get 10 acres in West Virginia and get the hell out of the system. And then when we were over in Poland in July, we were able to secure 10 acres out in this rural area there. So the goal is to have 2 base camps set up, one in Poland, one in West Virginia. Now, at some point, I believe they're not going to have international travel anymore. I think that 7 years, 10 years, that's going to be gone. They're going to tell you it's back to sovereign nation states, but that's a complete and total lie. They're actually just locking you down into a quadrant within the technocracy, because it'll go from the country locked down to the state, locked down to your little prison planet, 15-minute city, smart city that you live inside of. So that's coming, but that's why we're focused on getting the West Virginia one set up, and then we'll see about the Poland one. But again, that's where I think people's time is better spent, is working towards saving yourself first, then worry about fighting the bigger issue. And the bigger issue is if you could figure out how to frame this battle between technology and humanity without telling people to go live by candlelight under a rock somewhere. If you could figure out how to frame that and start to wake people up and so that they understand that them selling out their perceived, they're trading perceived convenience for actual freedom and liberty, dignity, autonomy, and eventually humanity. Like, you're selling all that to these guys. You are selling your soul piece by piece. That's how I see it. Piece by piece, you're giving it to them. I mean, when you look at the AR and VR technology and this EEG stuff, it's all about manipulating your brain. They don't hide it. I just reviewed this company today on my show in detail, like about what the technology is. They're selling these things and they're mainstream at this point. And so when you know this exists, like say with your brother, you know, how could you put it on if you know what the purpose is? I was just saying that to my audience. I know there's some people that play video games and they say to me, well, I know the dangers and I love it. And I'm like, okay, well, I know the dangers of heroin, so I inject it into my arm 3 days a week. I mean,
right. I know.
You don't know the dangers, or you're addicted to it, because why wouldn't you get rid of it? And then you're going to complain to me about the GMO food at the grocery store. Well, instead of playing video games for 8 hours a week, why aren't you growing an indoor garden? Start getting some tomatoes and cucumbers going inside your house using organic seeds. You could use the 8 hours of video games to actually build an indoor garden, and even in your little apartment, you can do it. You know?
Right. Yeah, and I mean, like, there's so many things, and I think you're right. I mean, the whole bottom line is with all of this is just basically it's mindset. You have to either change your mindset. You're either going to be in it, or you're going to be out of it, or you're going to have something in between. And I think mostly the people in this community anyway that I talk to, I mean, they're all for the, you know, there's a lot of vegans, which I'm sorry, I like meat. I'm just going to say this, okay? I mean, but I would not be able to kill an animal to eat it.
Well, I would say this to the vegans out there. One, I would definitely not eat meat from the store. No. Also, if you're buying cattle from a local farmer, you need to find out if they vaccinate the cattle. That's a new thing I found out, because a lot of them you don't think they do, and they actually do. But for the vegans, I think in the long run, and I've read almost every, like, not diet book, but lifestyle book. Yeah. I think in the long run, you're going to be in a lot of trouble, because I don't think the human body can actually survive long in a very healthy way without the meat protein. I just don't think it could be done. And if you're supplementing with soy and stuff like that, that's all man-made garbage designed to kill you. They're going to kill you with that. That's actually poison. So I'm just saying, if you're eating like soy cakes and Impossible burgers and fake chicken nuggets and all this other stuff, plant-based is the biggest scam on the planet. It's called plant-based because people see it as them grinding up grass and then making like a glass cleaner out of it, or making a steak. I just warn you guys, like, do a little more research. I would find clean meats from true local, like our local farmer. It's going to be on my show, Farmer Carol. She actually has true 100%, organic chickens. We get fish from people that fish it from the wild. Now, can there be pollution in the water? Obviously, the big guys are polluting the water, the soil, the food, and the air. But, that's all part of, like, building your community and building your clean lifestyle. I mean, we still have a lot of work to do. We're getting ready to start filtering our own water and then storing that in glass jugs and trying to totally get rid of using anything plastic. There's a lot of stuff to do. You're not going to get to all of it, but I don't know. I'd be careful of, like, not eating meat. I don't know how well you're going to survive in the long run. And then if you're doing just vegetables, you definitely have to make sure you're doing everything organic. And if you buy organic from the store, you got to do your research on that, because most of the organic food is actually GMO. They say that it's not under certain, like, USDA classification, but a lot of it actually is GMO'd. So you're not getting all the nutrients out of the food that you would get if it was truly organic. So I'd just be careful. That's all. And trust me, I've gone back and forth on different diets and removed glutens, and have done a lot of different things over the years. That's all I'd say. I mean, nobody's judging you. I'd say just be careful and do a lot of research.
Just do the research. I mean, like I said, I mean, I've been eating more. I've been eating trying to anyway eat healthier as far as like trying to eat more vegetables and that kind of thing, more organic stuff. But yeah, you have to source everything. And I want to say too, before we end the show, real quick here, is that Dustin, you source everything. All your research is sourced. Can you just go through that litany of what you do when you're researching all this stuff?
Oh, yeah. Well, when it comes to the technology stuff, which is a lot of what I talk about, everything I cover, and if I'm on the show and I give my opinion, or I'm like, I always try to point out, like, I'll stop and say, okay, here's my opinion on this.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do on the show is everything comes from the white papers, all these position papers, the documents, articles, videos, panel discussions, speeches, all directly from the source. So if I'm talking about central bank digital currency, that's all coming from the Bank for International Settlements documents, the UN documents, from, even like I don't even use really World Economic Forum as a source for that, because the initial work comes out of Bank for International Settlements, or I'll find articles and white papers that come out of Visa, MasterCard, Citibank, because they're the ones who are actually building it all. So this way, if people say that's a conspiracy theory, I'm like, well, tell that to Citibank, because in their white paper, they said they're doing it. So could they be lying? Yeah, but I don't have the ability to dig a tunnel underneath Citibank and steal documents from them. So I can only go off of that. Then the majority of when I do history, like I've done, the history of Operation Paperclip when we brought Nazis over here after World War II, or MK Ultra when we did mind control experiments, which I have proven that has not ended. I use the official narrative stuff that comes from the government, because everything else is just speculation, conjecture, or somebody's opinion. So if the government admits to X, Y, and Z, but so-and-so wrote about A, B, and C, and there's no facts behind that, I don't use that, because my opinion is that what the government admits to is bad enough. It's already bad.
Yeah.
Like, you admit that we had a chemist who was playing mind control experiments on people and killing them in secret prisons. Okay, that's bad enough to me. Now, again, could the government be lying because I don't trust them? Yes, they could be lying. But I'm trying to explore what they already admit to. If they admit to it, then as far as we're to believe, it's real. So if I can tell somebody that we were like actually running mind control experiments on people, well, who said that? The government. They admit to it.
Right.
So I do that. And then what I do on my show a lot of times, if I'm analyzing something from World Economic Forum or one of these panel discussions, instead of just taking the 1 minute sound bites you'll find on, say, Twitter, I'll analyze the whole 30-minute or 1 hour panel discussion, because I want people to see that everything is in context. I'm not cherry picking something out to make it seem crazier. Like, I don't take one little clip of Yuval Noah Harari and say, see what he said? I go, here, let's listen to the 30 minutes of this psychopath talking. Because I want people to hear everything about it. As far as everything else, like going out and homesteading, like recently I brought a cattle rancher on the show. He's a real life cowboy from Colorado. I want to learn about religion. I bring on pastors. I want to learn about, I've got a guy coming on soon who's like a water purification engineer. I've got another guy coming on who was also a cattle rancher who knows all about the vaccines. I've got this farmer. So I try to reach out to people that are, experts in the area. And a lot of what I'm doing on my show is reaching out to people that come from the audience and also in my personal life, because I don't necessarily want guests that were on shows 500 times and they're going to just say the same thing on my show. So I go out and I'm like, oh, okay. Hey, Farmer Carol, will you do my podcast? That's a woman that's my friend. Yeah, I'll do it, because then you're going to get information from her you've never heard anywhere else, because she doesn't run around doing podcasts. You don't find out years later that Steve Bannon was paying her to say certain things, or she secretly works for Monsanto's. Like, I don't want to know. I don't want to keep talking to them. Those people are all over the place. You can find them on every other show. So I try to go out and find real people.
Yeah, I think it's great. Well, tell everybody how they can find you, and if they want to listen to, how many shows are you in now? 100 and what?
I'm actually at, I just recorded 140, but there was some specials in there, so it's about 150, I would say.
Wow.
And
Okay.
so on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all those things, it's the Dustin Gold Standard. And then you can join Paine.tv, that's Paine, like Thomas Paine.tv/gold. To get access to the ad-free video version of the podcast. If you want to support my work, you can do so at donorbox.org/Dustin Gold Show. And then we'll be launching in the next few days. I'm just going to have DustinGoldShow.com up, which you'll be able to, just link off to where all the podcasts are and stuff like that. And then at some point, we're going to be doing our own video platform, which will be Gold Standard TV. So that's like in the works. Everything takes forever in this crazy world we live in. But you get the podcast for free. You just have to listen to the ads, and the ads are funny because they're inserted by Spotify, and they don't make any sense because I'll be railing against artificial intelligence, like artificial intelligence is going to destroy humanity. All right, let me go to a short commercial break, and then it'll be like, this episode is sponsored by artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is fantastic. but I'm very transparent with the audience.
Yeah.
In podcasting or video podcasting, you can only pay your bills via the ads that they insert on the free side.
Right.
If you get big enough that you can get sponsors that you don't have to sell your soul to, that's where you'd read the ad, and say, I brush my teeth with this organic toothpaste, like that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
If you sell merchandise, if you have a subscription-based site, and then eventually if you do get paid to do live speaking, that's really the only way that you can make money. So on the free side, I figure, what the hell, if Spotify wants to run a bunch of ads in there that don't make any sense, I find it to be comical. Like I'm sure it's like, Citibank are scumbags. They're building central bank digital currency. I'm going to go to a short commercial break. Ladies and gentlemen, Citibank, join now. Get a free account. I was like, your AI algorithms need some tweaking there. If you keep inserting ads that I'm trashing,
Fun with AI with Dustin Gold.
Yeah.
That should be the next thing. I swear. Oh my God.
No, I swear, Chrissy. You know what I was just thinking?
What?
So I ended up last week on TikTok. I never went on TikTok, and this guy who listens to the show, has been a guest, told me to go over to TikTok because his daughter's always on there. We could reach younger people. So I set up just a TikTok. I didn't post anything, just to get in there and look.
Yeah.
It was like an MK Ultra mind control experiment. It's the creepiest, scariest stuff I've ever seen. So I figure if this show doesn't work out, I'm going to buy one of these EEG helmets that read your brain. And I'm going to set up a TikTok account. I'm going to see if I can get that company as a sponsor. I'm just going to come down here in the basement studio. I'm going to tell Maggie and Willie that I'm not going to see them for a year. I'm going to make the money to buy the homestead. And I'm just going to do TikTok videos of me shocking my brain and doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
Well, it's crazy. I mean, TikTok is, owned by China. So, I mean, of course it's an MK Ultra experiment over there. I know my niece goes over there all the time. She's talking to me about the books and stuff because, I'm writing my book, about that. But, so she's like, no, there's a whole community on there where, you can put your book out. People will, and all this. I'm like, I don't understand this TikTok thing. And then I went over there and I'm like, what the heck is going on over here? I don't think I really want to be associated with the TikTok situation, but I mean, everybody's
No, I told the guy who told me to go there, his name's Jim. And immediately I texted him. I said, listen, I hashtag just to look up technocracy, transhumanism, World Economic Forum, just to start to look to see what was there.
Right.
I said, I didn't know there was real people that actually wanted to merge with man and machine together, but I found them on TikTok. And I said to him, so I start trying to find anti-establishment type stuff.
Yeah.
The video that had the most views in there was a guy with lipstick and long hair, and he was talking with a voiceover of a girl, and it was going, 9/11 is an inside job. 9/11 isn't it? And I said to him, dude, this is seriously if the CIA brought you to a torture chamber. all right, in a dungeon, in a black site in Afghanistan. And they strap you down to an old dentist chair with barbed wire and pin your eyelids open with crocheting needles.
Oh,
This is what would be on the television, like flashing before you. Well, they're trying to turn you into the Manchurian candidate so they could bring you back home and run you for president. Like, this is what it looks like. And I said to him, the only way I would ever get anything across, I said, say we're going to talk about like CBDC is bad. I said, I would have to dress up as like Pee Wee Herman and have breast implants put in and then run around going, CBDC is bad. CBDC is bad. With like weird flashing lights. Like, that's TikTok to me.
That would be hilarious. I think you should do it, Dustin. You go in there, pretend like you're, getting some costume or something.
I'm telling that would actually probably get a lot of views on TikTok. I'm not kidding.
It would.
It doesn't make any sense to me, Chrissy.
So crazy.
Like if you wanted to talk about like say the old soap opera podcast you used to do back in the day. If you talked about soap operas while you were having sex with your cat, while you're dressed up as Curious George in a furry costume,
that millions of views.
That would not get enough views. That's the problem.
I don't know, soap operas, I tell you.
That would be considered vanilla over at TikTok.
I swear, I survived the couple fan, whatever, the soap opera fans and their couples, and oh my God, that was just torture. But anyway, we won't even go this. But anyway, but thanks so much for coming on the show.
All right, thank you very much. And hey, I got a surprise for you. I'll say it on the show. This way, it has to be done. I'll have that book cover over to you tomorrow.
Woo! Yay! My book cover.
And then we'll make any changes if we have to make them.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. All right, I'll talk to you later. Thank you very much.
All right, talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye. I'm out of here. Let's see.